Greetings to you today. Welcome to our daily Devo for Friday, the 10th of November. Today, we are going to hear about the parable of the rich fool. Parable of the rich fool. Luke 12:13 through 21. Verse 15 is the one that's quoted here for us. Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Important words for a country like ours to hear, that's for sure. As the noisy crowd pressed in around Jesus, one voice stood out. Someone in the crowd wanted Jesus' help with an inheritance issue. Not that Jesus seemed to have ever really preached on that or taught on that. Following the death of their father, his brother had not divided and shared the estate to his satisfaction. Jesus quickly saw that it was not the transfer of property that was the problem. The problem was greed, giving Jesus the opportunity to take up the topic. Watch out, Jesus warned. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions, Luke 12:15 that we just read. At base, greed is fueled by the mistaken notion that possessions have the power to provide personal well-being and a secure future. They cannot. And Jesus drives the point home with a parable. A well-to-do man had a windfall. His agricultural fields produced a bumper crop of grain. He carefully mulled his options. He could give the surplus back to the Lord as a free will offering. He could use the surplus to help the many families living in poverty, but instead, he decided to just keep it for himself. This meant he had to renovate his grain storage facilities. The barns that are mentioned here are not the equivalent of my grandparents' barn. Their red wooden structure, so iconic of rural American landscapes, was large enough to house livestock as well as grain. The quote-unquote barn of the ancient world was an underground silo, a pit dug and lined with stones just for the storage of grain. A dome made of bricks covered this kind of barn to keep the elements and the animals away, securing the grain for years of future use. By renovating his storage structures, the rich man presumed that his future well-being was guaranteed. But that very night, his future took a different turn. He died, and all the grain went to others. As the man stood in that judgment before the Lord, all the possessions now left behind did him no good. Greed had misled him. His possessions could not guarantee an eternal future. Only a strong personal relationship with the Lord does that. And in that respect, this parable remains a cautionary tale for us. This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. Luke 12:21. I'm reminded of two very, very brief parables that Jesus told. The pearl businessman who found the most exquisite pearl he'd ever found before. And in the parable, Jesus leads off with, the kingdom of heaven is like. And what that man chose to do was he couldn't afford that pearl at the moment, so he went and sold all that he had, and he came back and bought that pearl because he saw its value, he saw its worth. And there's a man who finds a treasure that's been hidden in a field. He buries the evidence back up, goes and sells all he has, and offers to buy that field, which I'm sure the owner of that property thought, wow, I got me a sucker here. Look how much he's willing to pay for that plot of land. But he's doing it because he knows the value of what he's found. And that's the case for us always. What do we really value? What do we put our stock in? And do we have any concerns about eternity with it? Most people, I have found, live their lives with a sense of having is what will make me happy. Possessing is what will see me through to the end of my days, having no idea when those end of days are. And our culture even has those sayings. You never saw a hearse with a U-Haul behind it. You can't take it with you. And yet we live that way, as though it's going to bring us happiness. It's amazing, isn't it? That we have so many idols in our lives. Family can be an idol when we pursue only that's the thing that will make us happy forever. But what happens if they move away? What happens if you can't have access to them constantly like you did when they were little? Putting our stock in the things that are passing is a very bad investment. Yes, can we enjoy them? Yes, we can. But are they an idol? Do we trust them more than we trust God? Do I trust my retirement fund to take care of me and not God? Do I trust my medical people to keep me healthy all the time as opposed to trusting God? That's the problem here. This person is greedy, and he's not the only example, is he? There's another gentleman that wants to know how he can get it for himself. Get that eternal life for himself. And Jesus lets us know that it's very, very hard for a rich person to get into the kingdom. Why? Because he's trusting in himself and he's trusting in his possessions. All of our hope, all of our trust is in God. And as Jesus teaches in the Sermon on the Mount, if we will seek him first, if we will seek God first and his kingdom first, all the things of life will be taken care of. He's just got done talking in that passage about worrying over having enough food, worry over having enough clothing, worry over having a roof over our head. And those are legitimate worries for some people because of their financial situation. But at the end of the day, they don't last forever. And they're just things that can be lost in a moment. So we pursue God. We trust God. We put everything about him first. And his promises, I got you covered. I got you covered. I appreciate any sacrifices you make. I have you covered. Blessings to you today. The parable of the rich fool reminds us that kingdom wisdom is on an altogether different level than earthly wisdom. Kingdom priorities are on an altogether different level than worldly priorities. Pursue the Lord. Seek him first. Blessings to you today.